What's up, you guys, and welcome to another episode of the Ask Alex Show. Man, I am so grateful you guys keep coming back to watch us here and talk about our favorite things in the world, movies, TV, nostalgia, bullshit, and a lot of funny things coming out of some funny directors. I could not do this show without my co-host, Mr. Jeremy Branch. How are you doing today, Jeremy?
Oh, the world is just wild, Alex. Between everything going on with Twitter, and our boy Ye in particular, just keeps hitting it out of the park with his statements. Did you watch the Alex Jones interview?
I did. And I was just like, first of all, what the fuck are you wearing? One. And number two, like at this point, like, and I've not talked about Kanye, but fuck Kanye West. Like, just fuck Kanye West. Like, you were just like the biggest like troll there is. Like, but yeah.
Let me ask you this. Is there a
Yes.
better chance for redemption for Ezra Miller or Kanye West?
Oh shit, that's a tough one. That's a good question.
Mm-hmm.
If we're talking society wise, Ezra Miller.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with you, dude.
Because like Ezra Miller is not that far gone from like a Mel Gibson, and people are still watching his movies.
That's a good comparison. Yeah, yeah. All right, I agree with that. I feel like once you make Alex Jones look like the lesser of two insane people, that you've pretty much made yourself irredeemable. I mean, this is the guy that like said that the Parkland shooter was
Yeah.
a hoax, and that so I know it's controversial, but I just had to ask about it. What do you
Yeah.
think the end game like?
Mhm.
What is he trying to do, man? What is going on?
I'm gonna be honest. If anything, I feel like Kanye West is trying to self-sabotage everything. And I think what he thinks, and I don't know this for a fact because I don't believe Kanye West is crazy. Like, I'm one of the people, if you ask me if he has a mental issue, I would say it's funny how people bring up he has a mental issue when he's trying to close a major deal. He ain't acting crazy or saying stupid shit. Because when he gets those millions of dollars, he's good. But the moment like he feels the need to talk about, I don't know, like White Lives Matter or George Floyd, that's when people say he's crazy. But to answer your question, the end game, I think it's just basically maybe he's just trying to ultimately get rid of all his millions and say, see, I tried to tell you we're all slaves. But I'm like, dude, this was self-sabotage. Because me personally, if I was really struggling with a mental issue and I had all that access to excess of doctors and resources and money, I would be going to a therapist at least once or twice a week. And not only that, using that billions of dollars that I had to really impact my community. You're saying things like, oh, I'm trying to make awareness and make an impactful thing for my community. How about you actually give people jobs or give people resources to mental health or things that they can't access? I'm not necessarily saying you got to go to the hoods and give them bags full of money, because that's not necessarily the answer. But me personally, if you were to give them something to believe in other than this nonsense, like I said it last night when I saw him on Alex Jones. I said, if Kanye West were to unfortunately die by some way, shape, or form, these people are not going to care about him, not at all. So I mean, personally, I stopped supporting Kanye when he got on TMZ and said slavery is a choice. Like, we all, as Black people, we just woke up one day. You say, you know what? We're going to get on that boat and we're just going to be slaves. Like, he's a little bit far gone. And as a Christian, I am praying for him. But as a human being, if I'm being completely honest, like, dude, fuck Kanye West. Because
All right.
I think he's very aware of what he's saying and doing. But it's funny you bring it up. What is your take on it, in a sense?
I can't really expand on it too much more than what you said. It does seem like there's an aspect of self-sabotage, and I do feel that the best case scenario is when this is all said and done, he can say, see, they took everything from me. I told you that there was greater nefarious purposes at play. But how does that benefit Kanye? To make yourself a martyr, great, but at the same time, a martyr to who? When you've essentially turned your back on communities that truly
Yeah.
have been persecuted throughout history, whether we're
Mhm.
talking about the African
Mhm.
American experience, whether
Mhm.
we're talking about
Mhm.
the Jewish experience. It's like
Mhm.
these are the people that have experienced a lot of they've had a real rough recent history. And
Yeah.
I know a lot of people can say at different times throughout history, all
Mhm.
different groups have been persecuted. But this stuff is like there's people alive right now that
Mhm.
were affected by slavery and
And the Holocaust.
children,
Yeah.
yes, that were affected by the Holocaust. So,
Mhm.
like, it seems like the people who he should be propping up, as you said, I think that's a really
Mhm.
good point. The people that he should be propping up, the communities that he could do things to actually help. Instead, he's decided to make it his mission just to be a contrarian. So I don't know that you come back from this, Alex. I really don't know how.
Yeah, I don't know how. I mean, you can go on an apology tour. I mean, I remember Jeremy, you because you were old enough to remember this too. I remember when that Chris Brown Rihanna thing happened. I remember
Hmm.
saying then, and I was like, I think I was like 14, 13, 14. I said, I don't think Chris Brown's coming back from this.
Nah.
And he did. It took a while, though. I'm not gonna lie. I remember when people would boycott his concerts. So I remember it was a long road. So I think anybody can come back from anything. But in this case, in the year 2022, it's going to be hard for Kanye to get back to that. But it was an interesting off the top topic that you brought up because
Yeah.
I mean, this happened literally last night, and then on top of
Hmm.
LeBron James comments about the Dallas, Texas guy who was 14 was seen or stopped at a race rally when he was younger, and he never
Hmm.
really spoke up about it. So there's a lot of different things that have been going on. But I'm glad you brought that up because that is an interesting topic, which I will definitely put in a section in this video. So what do you guys think about that? What do you guys think about Kanye West potentially self-sabotaging his life? But also, what do you think the end game, if you will,
Mm.
of Kanye West is? Just jump into the comment section below. Let us know your thoughts. That was a dope off the top section. I might add more of those in the show as we can progress in the seasons of Ask Alex. But if you want your question or topic on the show, guys, it's very, very simple. Send me an email at the askalex@gmail.com. That's the askalex@gmail.com. If you send me your topic or question, I can promise you more than likely it'll be answered on this show. If I can't answer it on the show, it'll be definitely answered directly. And if you cannot watch this show on YouTube, it will be made available on Spotify. So the moment this show comes out today, you will see it available in audio version on Spotify as well. So now that we got that out the way, guys, let's go ahead and jump into the first question of the day. And the first question comes from a Mr. My another coworker of mine, Mr. Keith Beers.
Keith.
And he writes, hey guys, so yesterday a boatload of trailers came out, from the Transformers trailer to the Indiana Jones 5 trailer, and later on that day, Guardians of the Galaxy 3 trailer. I have to say, out of all of the three trailers, I really enjoyed Guardians of the Galaxy 3 because it looks like it's taking our characters down a different route. And also, I really enjoyed the Indiana Jones 5 trailer. Looks like Harrison Ford is going to actually be in a serious Disney Disney movie of Indiana Jones 5, an actual adventure, not that BS from the last film. What was your favorite trailer out of the bunch, and which one do you think will had the most impact? Well, thank you for your question, Mr. Keith. So what Mr. Keith is literally for referring to yesterday. I mean, I think I was just getting ready to go to work. We had Indiana Jones 5 come out. We had Transformers, the I think Beast Wars or Beast Formers come out. And then we also had Guardians of the Galaxy 3, James Gunn's final Guardians of the Galaxy movie to come out. By the way, if you have not seen the holiday special, please go to Disney Plus and watch it. It's actually pretty funny. I think it was a pretty good holiday special. But what
Yeah.
I think was the most funny impact out of all of them. Okay, so I'm not. How can I put this? I'm a casual Indiana Jones fan. I would even say the last film with Shia LaBeouf and those damn aliens was okay to a certain extent. but there was something about that trailer that kept me engaged. I mean, and again, I love Raiders of the Last Ark, and I love what Harrison Ford's been able to bring to this franchise. But there was something about this trailer that captivated me. I was like, "Yo, I wish I could buy tickets to this now because I can't believe the lengths that they're going." And I think that final scene, which I thought was really funny, where Harrison Ford is throwing his whip at these different groups of people, and he misses all of them, and they all draw their guns on him. He was like, "Oh shit!" And he just ducks.
Yeah,
I thought that's classic Indiana
it
Jones,
is.
and it's just like I can't wait to see what they'll do with it. Now, I would say that out of the three was the most impactful. I have to say though, the next one for me would be the Guardians of the Galaxy, but if I were to really think about it, I actually enjoyed the Transformers trailer a little bit more, only because this is the first time we've seen robot animals and their in that particular culture integrated into. It looks like they're taking it looks like they're taking that first Bumblebee movies version of the
Mm.
Transformers and like continuing that narrative, because if you watch the trailer, Optimus Prime looks very original to his original design, not what we got in the other movies. I was just telling Jeremy off camera, Transformers has a habit of making really great trailers but terrible movies. Like I remember when they did Transformers 4 and you see Optimus riding a dinosaur, I was like, "Oh shit, this is going to be lit." You go watch the movie, man, that shit was so boring and so dumb. Same thing with last night. We see Optimus get controlled by, seems like a, I don't know, like a Transformers evil spirit about to kill Bumblebee. And when you watch the movie, it's garbage. So I'm just like, damn. So, but I was intrigued by that. And then also, I really enjoyed the Guardians of the Galaxy 3 trailer. It looks like we're about to get an origin story of where Rocket came from. We're going to see how, which version of Gamora this is. Is this the version we saw in Endgame, or is this like a time variant, or just a variant in general? I don't know. It's very intriguing. And then also, I think this might be Chris Pratt's last movie. The way they set it up, I think he might die in this movie. I don't know. That's just me. Out of all of the trailers that came out, Jeremy, which one did you like the most, and which one did you think had the most impact? And what did you think about all the trailers? If you saw all the trailers.
So impact is a challenging thing to define because right off the bat, the biggest reaction that I had was to Drax beaming that little girl with a ball.
With the
It,
ball, yeah.
that was so funny. I know it's just a little physical gag, but it
Mhm,
definitely made me laugh. So I
mhm,
enjoyed that part. I love the use of Space Hog.
mhm,
That song in the trailer. Just James Gunn is always good at bringing maybe obscure music back into the zeitgeist. Like I remember when that song was played on TK 101 back in the 90s and just being a really big
yeah.
fan of that Space Hog song. Couldn't name another Space Hog song, but I really like that one. So it was cool to hear that version of the song in it. For me, the best was Indiana Jones. I am the opposite of a casual fan. Like with Transformers, I didn't grow up watching them, even though
Mhm,
that was kind of my generation. I think I'm a
mhm,
little younger than when Transformers was at its biggest. I
mhm,
know there have been different iterations through the years, like Beast Wars, things I didn't really keep up with. So, like, I'm not a lifelong Transformers fan in the
mhm,
way that I am a lifelong Indiana Jones fan. And
mhm,
I agree with you that it did a really good job of captivating audiences by giving us exactly what we wanted out of an Indiana Jones trailer. It,
mhm,
it looks like they're going to do the same and give us exactly what we want out of an Indiana Jones movie,
mhm,
similar to the way The Force Awakens did, the way that they used Harrison Ford as this like stalwart to move the franchise forward and pass the baton off to the newer generation, right? Like
mhm,
Harrison Ford was a pivotal part of The Force Awakens and really did a great job of recapturing the nostalgia and that magical feeling of Star Wars.
mhm,
And to be frank, Disney's always been really good at this. If
mhm, yeah.
Disney, I can give them credit for many things, but the one thing I feel that they've done better than any studio is understanding what works about the franchises. Like
Mhm.
George Lucas lost the plot. Whether we're talking
Yeah.
about Star Wars or we're talking about Indiana Jones, I think in his pursuit of giving us something new, he honed in on the wrong, I say the wrong aspects of it. And then we've got these younger screenwriters and filmmakers, people in our generation that grew up loving this stuff and they know what it was that they loved about the stuff, and they are presenting that to audiences and saying, we are you. We know what it was about these franchises that made you fall in love with them in the first place.
Mhm.
So it kind of a backhanded compliment, but Disney's really good at repackaging the things that we love from our childhood and recapturing that spirit of childhood wonder. And I think that Indiana Jones 5 looks fantastic. Was a little bit shocked to learn that Kanye West is actually going to be the main villain in the movie and Indiana Jones never ending fight
Yeah.
against Nazis. But other than that, pretty exciting stuff, man.
Fun fact, apparently Tarantino stole his idea for Django.
Yeah,
Oh my
man.
god. Oh, if I have never heard the most absurd shit in my life. Oh my god. Oh Jesus. Oh man, but yeah, I mean, yeah, Jeremy, I have to agree. As a casual Indiana Jones, like my dad, he has all of the old movies. I'm talking about on VHS. Like I'm old enough to remember rewinding those things and just playing those things and watching those with my dad. And Raiders of the Lost Ark, I would say would have to be my favorite. But
Great movie.
out of all of them, this just brought me back to that nostalgia of Harrison Ford being sure of himself as that archaeologist, adventurous, treasure hunting badass. And I can't wait to see it because Harrison Ford is like fucking like 80 years old,
Old.
like
He looks
85.
great in the trailer.
He does. He looks amazing. And there's a scene in there where I think they kind of de-aged him for a particular scene. I want to see how that plays out because they kind of did that technology for the Irishman. And I saw that you were talking about something similar about that on your stream last night about de-aging technology. And I think it's cool to a certain extent, but like I think that when they first did it in the Mandalorian, the first time we see Luke, it looks it looks very off. The second time when they did it with Luke, it looks a lot better. So for me personally, if they're able to redefine and master that technology, I think it's going to be a good film. How they tell this story from different time pieces, but also again, I am interested in Guardians 3, and I'm also interested in Transformers. Did you have something else to add? I'm sorry.
No, no.
Oh.
I did watch the Transformers trailer. Although I did it, as we were sitting here talking, so I didn't catch all of it. But it looks fine. I don't even think it was a great trailer. But I've never been invested in this franchise in that way. Have
Right.
you ever? I know you're in Orlando. Have you ever
Mhm.
done the Indiana Jones stunt show?
Yes. So
What a great show!
oh my God. Like, that was the first thing I saw when I first moved here.
Oh, really?
Yes. Oh my God. It is great. Anytime you go to Disney, that is the first thing you need to go see. It's in Hollywood Studios. Now, mind you, this is before they built the Star Wars stuff. This is as they were building it here. But when I moved here and we saw the show, oh my God. Like
Awesome.
it's like the best 20 minutes of your life. But what do you guys think about the last three trailers that have come out literally in the last 24 hours? Did you love those trailers? Did you like them? Did you which one did you think was more impactful? Jump into the comment section below. Let us know your thoughts. And speaking of Quentin Tarantino and Kanye West, and a lot of nonsense has come out of a lot of my favorite people's mouth. I don't consider Kanye West my favorite people, but at one point I did have respect for him. At one point I even had respect for Quentin Tarantino, but Quentin Tarantino, amongst his fellow other directors, like to say things about comic book movies for whatever reason. But which leads us into our next topic, coming from one of our returning guests, Miss Iris Peoples. And Iris actually kind of agrees with Quentin to an extent. And she writes, Hey guys, so I know you guys have been on top of the movie business game, but I want to let you guys know that Quentin Tarantino, one of my favorite directors, made some comments about comic book movies. He essentially said that the comic book movies actors are not movie stars; their characters are. And when you really think about it, how many people are going to go see a what is she, she's Chris Evans movie, knowing the fact that he's not Steve Rogers Captain America. There's so many Chris Evans movies that are out there, but he didn't really blow up until he became Captain America. Also, if you look at Anthony Mackie had a lot of different movies that came out prior to him becoming Falcon. Now that he's Falcon slash Captain America, his characters are actually more famous than the characters that he's played in the past. Anthony Mackie was also quoted saying that Falcon is a movie star, not Anthony Mackie. What do you think about Quentin Tarantino's comments? And also, what do you think about him saying these different things? And do you think that movie stars, they're not movie stars because they play these particular characters? All right. Thank you for your question, Iris. Well, even with Anthony Mackie saying that, Falcon is a movie star, not him, because he was quoted in saying that prior to those comments came out from Quentin Tarantino, I would have to respectfully disagree, only because of these reasons. Sam Jackson actually made a very good point when he was on The View. He said that Chadwick Boseman was Chadwick Boseman before he became T'Challa. And like, I remember going to go see 42 because of Chadwick Boseman. I also remember to go see Get On Up because of Chadwick Boseman. I went to go see different movies that he was in the lead in because of him prior to him becoming Black Panther. So when he became Black Panther, I think personally, I would say yes, Black Panther gave him, I guess, that stardom in a sense, but Chadwick Boseman was already a star before he became Black Panther. Take Sam Jackson. Sam Jackson is a culturally movie star. We know him from saying motherfucker in every movie he's in. The only time he's never said that is in an MCU movie because he can't say it. Yeah,
Yeah.
now he might be able to say it. Like there's a tease of him saying it when he's being disappeared in Avengers Endgame. I mean, Infinity War. But Sam Jackson is known across this whole world by playing multiple characters. I think one of his biggest roles, in my opinion, that made him a movie star was Pulp Fiction, where he's literally killing people and using the word motherfucker more than the whole script. I can only imagine says motherfucker this, motherfucker that, motherfucker this. Like, we know Sam Jackson for being the outright tough guy. I mean, Snakes on a Plane. He said, I'm tired of these motherfucking snakes on this motherfucking plane.
Yeah.
Um, okay, you brought up Chris Evans. Chris Evans, I would say, up until he became Captain America, was, I would say, a working actor getting his shine. He did plenty of movies that people went to go see because of him. Now, he wasn't necessarily the lead, but when he became Captain America, I would say he was getting close to being a movie star. But I will say this: people saw those Captain America movies because of the person who was playing Captain America, which was Chris Evans. If they would have replaced Chris Evans and Steve Rogers with somebody else in the midst of him being Steve Rogers, the impact wouldn't be the same. If you look at the actors of the MCU, majority of them have been considered or nominated for like Golden Globes, Oscars, SAG Awards, things of that nature. The MCU doesn't miss when it comes to casting. I mean, Bradley Cooper is the voice of Rocket Raccoon, and Bradley Cooper is a movie star. Like, so to direct to Quentin's idiotic comments, I think what it is personally, more people are willing to go see the comic book genre movies because they are more entertaining than you would say something outside of that genre. Now, me personally, if anyone knows me, yes, I love comic book movies, But what I love about the film industry is the dramas, is the action, is the comedy. I love to break away from the norm, from the blockbusters, to see something different every now and again. I love, like, I can sit here and watch indie dramas all the time, and I understand that they don't get the same shine as the MCU or DCEU or Star Wars or Harry Potter. I get that, but also let's be clear about something. These movies are the ones that save the theaters. If it wasn't for the MCU, Star Wars, the DCEU, Harry Potter to a certain extent with Fantastic Beasts, there would be no movies after this freaking pandemic. Like, nobody came out in droves to go see Tenet. Nobody in droves came to go see Django or The Hateful Eight. Like, they did not do that, not because they weren't bad movies or anything like that. They didn't do it because those are a particular genre of fans that people are going to go watch. Even though, again, Tenet is a pretty decent movie. Django, I love. That's one of my favorite Tarantino movies out of his collection of movies. I actually like The Hateful Eight as well. So he has a plethora of movies that I would say fit the zeitgeist of film culture. However, I feel as though it's because of the fact that he's not getting the same type of shine, maybe the same type of budget as some of these films cost. And on top of that, like, you're insulting actors that have been in your own movies. Sam Jackson is one of those people. So as I believe Bradley Cooper was in one of your movies as well, and he's part of the MCU as well. So my thing is I have to respectfully disagree because it takes the actor to make the character come alive. If we're not going to just watch random actors portray characters that we don't have I guess a feeling of, unless they're like brand new and they're brand new and we want to see what they do. But Jeremy, I'm sure you heard these comments. And what do you think about what Quentin Tarantino said? And do you agree with Iris, or do you agree with Quentin, or do you agree that do you agree with me that it takes a particular actor to give life to those characters?
What's up, Iris? I know this is a cop-out answer. I agree with both of y'all. I watched Two Bears, One Cave, which Quentin Tarantino was sitting in on Tom Segura and Bert Kreischer's podcast. Bert wasn't available for that day. I think he's off on tour or something. So I watched the interview, and I will say from the bottom of my heart, I love Quentin Tarantino's movies, and I hate Quentin Tarantino so much. Wait,
what?
I hate this man. Everything he says just makes me angry. So Tom Segura at the beginning of the podcast says, I just wanted to let you know that I love your new book. I'm listening to it on audiobook. And Quentin Tarantino is like, yeah, you told me that. Maybe you try a different format. You're not winning any points listening to it instead of reading it. And I'm like, how highly pretentious. The man just now gave you flowers and said, hey, I'm enjoying your work. So he didn't read it. He listens to it, and that's a fucking problem. Okay, whatever. A little bit later on in the episode, Tom Segura asks him, so you're not really wild about the movies that Marvel's putting out. Are there any filmmakers that you really do like? Quentin Tarantino refused to answer the question. He said he wasn't going to cheerlead and he wasn't going to dog out any other filmmakers. So he wouldn't give any other filmmakers respect or credit. No Eli Roth, no Robert Rodriguez, no Ari Aster, none of these new filmmakers that are putting stuff out. There's some really great films out there. Some of them you would think would speak to Tarantino's sensibilities. The only thing I could parse out in my mind, and this is more defending him and coming up with an excuse than it is his actual intent. But if he was like, look, I don't want to say one filmmaker is great because then I'm going to inevitably forget about so many others that are doing good work. So I don't want to shout out one because I can't shout them all out. That would have been a great political answer. But instead he was like, no, I'm just not going to do that, which it makes him look like a dickhead. So not to the question at hand. Both things can be true at one time. Like, you don't go see a Captain America movie because Chris Evans is Captain America, but that doesn't necessarily mean that Chris Evans is not a movie star. Like, how do you even quantify what a movie star is? To your point, undisputed, Samuel L. Jackson is a fucking movie star. He did play bit roles for a long time. I get it. Quentin Tarantino with Pulp Fiction as Jules made Samuel L. Jackson a movie star. He has led, at least had substantial roles in multiple Quentin Tarantino movies since then. Samuel L. Jackson was Samuel L. Jackson before he was Nick Fury, to the point that Ultimate Marvel Comics drew Nick Fury to be Samuel L. Jackson.
Yeah.
So that just totally undermines the whole argument. On the other hand, there aren't a lot of Marvel characters, actors portraying Marvel characters that are going to have that kind of draw. We've seen it with Chris Hemsworth. We've seen it with other cast members, but Chris Pratt is a movie star. He led the Jurassic franchise, regardless of how we feel about that, regardless of the critical reception. These are billion-dollar movies, $1 billion, $1 billion, $1 billion. So to say that somebody that is in billion-dollar movies is not a movie star it's obtuse. It is completely foolish. So I do believe that you go see Iron Man because you love Iron Man. But to say Robert Downey Jr. is not a movie star is insane. The man's career spans 4 decades. He's been acting since the early 1980s, or like maybe mid 1980s. So I can point to, for every example that we can point to and say that guy's not a movie star, we can point to Vin Diesel voicing Groot. To your point, Bradley Cooper voicing Rocket Raccoon. Michael Fassbender is another movie star who was in Quentin Tarantino's Inglourious Bastards. So not only is he disrespecting all of those actors that are in those movies, he's also disrespecting cast members for his films that helped elevate his films and make them the great movies that they are. Jason Momoa. Maybe not Henry Cavill as much. Ben Affleck. Like, you go over to the Warner Brothers DC side, these people are movie stars. John Cena. So like, I could go down the list. I think you and I are on the same page. Who's a bigger movie star than The Rock? It's like,
even though that movie was garbage, he was in he's the movie star. That's why people went to go see it, because he was in it.
So I don't think when you look a little bit deeper into it, it's really, I don't think there's really a lot of, and I'm not saying, Iris, that you're not entitled to feel that way. I feel like quantifiably the results do not match up with that hypothesis. And I think Quentin Tarantino is just kind of pompous. Like, I love his movies. He's for a long time my favorite director. The reason why I am talking about movies today, the movie that made me fall in love with film was Pulp Fiction. So I got a lot of love for him as a creator, but if he just shut the fuck up for the rest of his life, I think I could enjoy him a lot more.
Exactly. I mean, you know, Quentin Tarantino, hands down, one of the greatest to ever do it. I mean, I fell in love with film long before I saw any of his movies, but one of the films I fell in love with that he did, which I didn't even realize he did, was Kill Bill.
Oh, so good.
Oh God. And I'm talking about the first one. Like, what it taught me, you don't want to piss off women in particular, especially in particular women who are badasses. Like, you don't
like Iris Peoples.
Exactly. You don't. But also, to that point, I will say this: Quentin Tarantino does come from a different era. So the movie star, I guess the quote unquote movie star, looks differently in each era, which I wish he did. Which he could have said in that interview. Because if you think about it, people went to go see Will Smith and like Men in Black and like, you know, fucking Wild Wild West. They went to go see some of those trash movies because it was Will Smith.
Yes.
Now, like, or even same thing with Steve McQueen. If I date all the way back, people are gonna watch those movies because Steve McQueen, it didn't matter what movie he was in, just because he was in it, they were gonna watch it. Same with Van Damme, same thing. Any movie that he was in, people are going to watch it. Now, to like Jeremy's point, look at Robert Downey Jr. Yes, decades of movie stardom, but nobody saw The Judge. And I
Yeah,
love that movie. That movie, I wish more people did see that movie because it is a testament of Robert Downey Jr.'s acting. But I will say, nobody saw The Judge, and rightfully so, nobody saw Doolittle because
that
that
you
movie. Oh, go
you're
ahead.
right. No, I think you're making a really good point right now. Let me just propose this because you and I have been doing this for quite a while.
Mm-hmm.
How long, how tired is this opinion? How long have people been saying
Mm-hmm.
it's the intellectual property that drives people to movies now, not the actor? John Campea has been saying that for over a decade.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, we are in a different era. So I
Mm-hmm.
completely agree with your point. The
Mm-hmm.
actor is not going to draw people to the theaters in the same way as the intellectual property. So in that way,
Mm-hmm.
Iris is right. I'm not giving that to Quentin. I think Iris
Right.
said it really well in her question though.
Right, you're and like what Jeremy just brought up, he's right. It's the intellectual property. So yes, people are gonna see Superman because it's Superman.
Mm-hmm.
But I think we're gonna appreciate it more because it is Henry Cavill or whoever
Agreed.
else. So, but yes, so to an extent, if we look at the different eras of time, the term movie star is very different from the early 2000s up until now. Hell, even the early 90s, 80s up until now. So, yes, to an extent, Iris and maybe Quentin to an extent have a point, yes. But now, like I said, like people would go see Black Adam. I don't know why they did, but they went to go see Black Adam because of Dwayne the Rock Johnson.
Mm.
And Black Adam, yes, is an intellectual property. But if you've never seen like a cartoon version of Shazam or read a comic book or played Injustice, nobody knows who Black Adam is.
I agree.
They went to go see Black Adam because it was Dwayne the Rock Johnson. But that was an amazing question, Iris. Thank you so much for your question. What do you guys think? Do you guys agree with our writer, or do you agree with Quentin, or do you agree with our different perspectives? Jump into the comment section below. Let us know your thoughts. Now, I had a question about Avatar, but I'm going to save that for later because I know it's coming out this weekend.
Yeah.
I'm probably going to go see it and I'm going to give my out of the theater response. But this is kind of another off the top that Jeremy just kind of gave me an idea about. I wanted to ask him about because I did watch your stream last night, bro, and I wanted to ask you because you had some very interesting perspectives about this. Do you think that phase 4, this current phase, out of all the phases of MCU, would you say this was a failure, or do you think that this was a bit of transition to the MCU? Because I'm a transition into a different what the MCU is going to look like going forward. Because when I watched your stream, I really thought about it. I was like, you guys realize this is the first time we took the MCU home with Disney Plus. And Disney Plus, say what you will about all the shows that have come out, I don't believe they really serve the same narrative as like phase 3 when we didn't have to watch TV shows to get an understanding of the phase. There were nothing but back to back to back good movies here and there. But I wanted to ask you, Jeremy, do you think that phase 4 was a failure, and do you think that has a lot to do with what we got on Disney Plus, or how things were just written out to be going into the multiverse? Or do you think this was just a transitional period to get us to where we're going to be in phase 5?
So I want to tie this into the Halloween franchise, and it'll make sense in a moment. Halloween Ends is a movie that worked as a standalone Halloween movie that did not work as the end of a trilogy. So I believe it was a successful Halloween movie and a failure of an ending to a trilogy or even a franchise of movies.
Mm-hmm.
I say that to say look at the box office. Look at the Disney Plus subscriber numbers. What is a failure? No, MCU Phase 4 was a massive financial success.
Mm-hmm.
There are good TV series and good movies within Phase 4. I believe narratively, Marvel Phase 4 was a failure. And the reason why I say that is because everything from Phase 1 to Phase 3, it's like a pyramid. You start with Iron Man, Thor, Captain America, Hulk, these foundational characters, these building blocks. And as they added on new characters, they're gathering Infinity Stones. The trajectory of the narrative is going upward and more defined. And while they're adding the Guardians and expanding the universe, everything is still coming to a head. It ends in this perfect peak. And with Phase 4, this is such a rudimentary example, but everything is doing this right here, right? Like we're starting with same kind of deal. We're starting with Shang-Chi. We've got introducing new characters, Moon Knight, while also having to continue to service old holdover characters from what we all really love. I say we all, I think collectively, everybody loves Phase 1 through 3, except for the anti-woke douchebags out there. But for the most part, I think it's pretty unanimous. Everybody loves those. So what I think Phase 4 did unsuccessfully, and I think the television series play a significant factor in this, is their tight narrative that all served to come to a concise ending is instead, it's like they're throwing out things here, they're throwing out things there. And I believe Phase 4 was like, Phase 4 was almost like a choose your own adventure story, where I think they are giving audiences choices. Do you want to see the Dark Avengers or the Midnight Suns, all of these horror characters come together? Do you want to see all of these kid versions of the characters come together in Young Avengers? I mean, and this is kind of spoily, but Black Panther, Hulk, other characters, who am I trying to think? Wanda, Hawkeye, they've all got young proteges or biological children or adopted kids that we're being introduced to. So this can be over here, this can be over there. We've got the multiverse thing that's going on. We've got Secret Wars that's going on. There are so many things that they can do, and they're setting up for the future where fucking everything is Marvel, and I ain't got time for that.
So I agree to an extent when you're saying that from a narrative standpoint. So from a narrative standpoint, I walk away from saying, what was the point of Phase 4? If the point is to introduce us to the multiverse, technically you really only did that with 3 projects: Spider-Man No Way Home, Doctor Strange, and then Loki, to an extent with Loki. The other projects, I mean, Black Panther does not address anything in the multiverse at all. They don't even address anything outside the MCU really that much.
Then we got this Eternals thing going on.
Yeah, Eternals takes place. It takes place after Endgame, but the way it ends, it's like, okay, how do you have a statue on the middle of the earth
and nobody's talking about it?
No one says nothing.
Nah.
Nothing. And then I know that Shang-Chi takes place, I believe, after the blip or during the blip. One of those two things. No one stops to mention, and again, Shang-Chi is actually my favorite, one of my favorites out of the phase.
Yeah.
But no one stops to mention, who is this guy who saved us from the bus? Like, why is that being made notable? And then also, the dark web is so finicky You notice in She-Hulk, they reported that Abomination escaped, but they didn't say nothing about the fuckers that he was fighting in the fucking cage. Like they were,
Yeah.
they didn't address the fact that there's an underground fight club in the middle of in our country, but they're so concerned about him escaping. So I would agree that yes, that to an extent, from a narrative standpoint, I kept asking myself, where are we going with this? But I would like to introduce a fact of I personally think phase four was all set up.
Hit me.
And I think phase five, once we get to the Kane dynasty, that's the payoff. I really do think that's the payoff, only because when we got Black Panther, spoiler alert, and we kind of knew this, Shuri's our Black Panther, but the way it ended, she meets T'Challa's son, and she's not the queen of Wakanda. M'Baku's king of Wakanda. I personally think the reason why I bring that up, I personally think that in itself is going to cause another societal rift where maybe M'Baku may take on the mantle as Black Panther, and then it's going to cause Kane. It's going to cause. I'm sorry, not Kane. It's going to cause a particular rift in the MCU where we're going to need all hands on deck after Ant-Man Quantumania, where we see Kane fuck some shit up, and we're going to see how the multiverse plays in it. Now, I will say this. I agree with Jeremy when he says, when you watch each movie, it's kind of like pick your own adventure. You got Shang-Chi, action drama / comedy. You got Doctor Strange, Midnight Suns type of vibe. You got Spider-Man No Way Home, 3 iconic Spider-Man coming back to fight a greater evil. Same thing with the shows. You got Moon Knight, She-Hulk, Miss Marvel, all of these different things. The one thing that they have in common about this is that this particular phase, they were passing on the mantle. Like, I'm assuming, let's just assume that, okay, Hawkeye, the next Hawkeye could be Kate Bishop. Obviously, the Black Widow is going to be Yelena. We also got our new Captain America. So we got a lot of passing on the mantle. Shuri's our Black Panther. I don't think we're getting Young Avengers. I've always said that it's possible. I don't think we're getting Young Avengers. I think what they're setting up is our new version of our Avengers in our MCU, and then they're going to have to deal with the ramifications of the multiverse. And Kane is the key of all of that, along with Shang-Chi's bracelets. I would say the quantum realm to an extent, and also Miss Marvel's bangle. I think all of that shit is connected to a certain extent. That's going to make us appreciate these little Easter eggs. Now, I'm not saying that makes it better, but I think we got more setup than for phase 4 to help us get us reintroduced into phase 5.
I think that's fair. And in phase 1, we didn't see the archetype. We didn't see the blueprint. In phase 1, we knew that there was a tease for the Avengers coming up, but we didn't know about, we got a tease for Thanos. So we kind of had an idea of what's ahead. And they have done that in phase 4. So not disagreeing with anything you said. I actually think that's a really good point, that in the next 3 phase, in 4, 5, and 6, it could end similarly to what the Infinity War did. Where does the Secret Invasion and Secret Wars and the Skrulls tie into this? Because the Skrulls do have a relationship with the Marvels, but they have no sort of, like, we haven't seen the Skrulls showing up in any of the other plot lines. We know there's a TV series coming out. So, like, wasn't Secret Invasion supposed to be this big thing that we were building up to?
Yes. Because, like, I'm glad you brought that up. So Secret Invasion, I think, and what I'm about to say, I have no insider information, but okay. Secret Invasion is setting up that Skrulls have always, as we know, has always been here, and they're impersonating government officials, some superheroes that we're not necessarily aware about as of right now. And also they're impersonating things where it could potentially lead our world in a better place or a good place. Now, remember, in Captain Marvel, not all of the squirrels were good people.
Right.
Some of them were trash ass human beings. But what I loved of what Captain Marvel set up is that just because some of them were evil does not define all of them.
Mm-hmm.
And I think with Secret Invasion, I don't think that Sam Jackson's Nick Fury. I think that is a scroll like fucking around with him. And let's just say maybe that's been a scroll the whole time. I don't know. So, but when we get into Secret Wars, it's not about it's about the comic book characters in itself. There, it's kind of like Civil War times 10. They all have a disagreement about how the Avengers should be ran and who they got to fight. That's why there's different teams. And I think Secret Invasion is going to set that up because there's going to be, I think, a consequence of the scrolls being there, Kang's involvement, and also these ancient artifacts that our superheroes have that they can't explain how to use them, where they came from, and what they have to do with the overall narrative. That's why I think there are some ramifications for internals, but until they start addressing the fact that there's a fucking statue in the middle of the earth, or they write that off or something like that, it's going to play, I think, a major part in phase 5. So yes, I think we are building up to a Secret Invasion, but even when you watch that trailer, I don't believe that's Nick Fury. I think it's really like scrolls like fucking around in our MCU saying, listen, we're about to take over either in a good way or in a bad way. Because if you remember, and I think it was Spider-Man Far From Home when we got that tease of Nick Fury in space, just chilling in space. Okay, they were setting up Sword. In the comic books, Nick Fury never ran Sword. Sword was his own entity. In the MCU, it looks like since he lost Shield, he might be running Sword. So I don't know, man. Like, I'm to your point, I will say yes, from a narrative standpoint, I have been very disappointed because at least I could say with phase 1, I could say that it got me more hyped to see what they were going to do with Thanos. In phase 4, it looks like we're about to face Kang literally in the next phase. We remember we didn't fight Thanos until phase 3. It took us a whole nother like 5 or 6 years to get to that point. We're about to literally fight Kang within the next 2 to 3 years, maybe. I don't know. So
yeah,
I mean, but so I agree. Yes, I think it's trying to set up, I guess, Secret Invasion and even Secret Wars in the Kane Dynasty. But I would have to say phase 4, although there were some gems in it, I think this was all a setup to give us the path to phase 5. So
sure.
did you have any more thoughts to that?
We've touched on a bunch of it. I guess just in summary, I feel like there are so many omnipotent beings that are being introduced, from the Celestials to the gods and Moon Knight to Kang. There are the gods in Thor. There are so many different omnipotent beings that are, and when I say omnipotent, of endless power. Like, there's not really supposed to be anything more powerful than Celestials. There's not really supposed to be anything more powerful than gods. There's not really supposed, so like, I don't understand how their power scaling works together and what their relationship is. However, I'm not off board yet. Like, I'm still interested to see where things go. I'm gonna continue to watch these movies and enjoy them, despite the fact that I do feel the depth of my enthusiasm has become a little bit shallower.
Yeah, and I agree, because like he said, like what's the power dynamic in this? Like, are we saying, like with Moon Knight, these people are dealing with gods, and yet where were those guys when Thanos was on the planet? So it begs the question, like, the problem with phase 4 is that there's a lot of inconsistencies in their power levels, but also to that point, we don't know what time period Moon Knight takes place in. That could be before Thanos or after Thanos. All I know is that they're dealing with Greek gods, and I would assume those particular entities have a little bit more power than the Infinity Stones. But then again, I have no idea. But Jeremy, I want to thank you so much for being on the
It's
show.
been a pleasure, man.
What did you guys think about, phase four? Do you think it was a failure? Do you think it was a setting up point? Jump into the comment section below. Let me know your thoughts. Please like, comment, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Jeremy, where can we find you on YouTube and social media?
Do me a favor and check out Lucid Memory on YouTube. It is where I post original music along with cover songs. So some real fun stuff over there. Also, check out the Pop Culture Nihilist on YouTube. That's where you can find similar content to this, where we're talking pop culture, movie news, all of that kind of stuff. And check me out at Jeremy G. Branch on Twitter.
Awesome. And you know where to find us, guys, here on Momentum Media. Just type in Momentum Media. I'm the first thing that pops up on YouTube. A lot of great things are coming out on my YouTube channel. So definitely want to stay tuned for those things. Also, like I said, like I told you guys last show, definitely check out Lucid Memory. A lot of dope beats, a lot of
Thanks,
things to
man.
vibe to. I personally vibe to it. So it's something worth listening to. So definitely want to check that out. Also, check out Ian's channel as well. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. And as always, you guys have a blessed day.